All right, good evening, my lovelies. All right, so I have, as you notice, there's no game happening. Kind of decided that talking and gaming at the same time is incredibly difficult. Well, more like talking about very specific storytelling. Storytelling and gaming at the same time is incredibly difficult. So I've decided to kind of make them something different. So if you like my gaming and you just want to hear regular old chit chat, that'll be on Twitch. Here on my YouTube will be just the shit's true podcast stuff, where I will just be talking to you. I'm gonna call it my comfy Friday nights. I have my chips, I have my dip, I got my comfy blanket, and tonight we're gonna talk about Argo. Now, this was a hit movie back in, what was it, 2012, that I'd never actually seen before. I wasn't really into the whole, I don't know, serious type movies. I don't even know what you'd call them. So I never saw it before, but I heard everyone talked about how great it was. I don't even know what just fell. Um, so we're gonna talk about that tonight. So first of all, let me say, amazing movie. Um, Definitely deserved all the rewards it got. I was edge of my seat the entire time. So Argo takes place in 1979, and you start at the Iranian American embassy, and you have these people, obviously protesters, all outside at the gates trying to climb over the gates. And he actually did a really good job of filming this in a way that you were sitting there going, is this actual footage or is this just how they filmed it? And it was just how they filmed it, but it was beautifully done. Beautifully done. So you come in on the protesters, they're over the gate, you have everyone inside. Of course, the Iranian people there to get like a visa and stuff are terrified because they're gonna get taken down if these people get over this gate. The Americans are kind of like, where should we go? What should we do? All of a sudden, you see the gate break, or they get over, and that's when everyone's like, so a bunch of them go to hide, and you see on this other side, it makes it look like it's on the other side of a building in the movie, like just in a different part of the building. So when um it's these six people, I want to say it's six. I should have probably written this down. But it's like two couples and then two single people. Yeah. So they're kind of talking like, what do we do? What do we do? Do we leave? Should we leave? Should we stay? Should we leave? Should we stay? And as it shows it super tensely, like the people are running in and the other floors are being taken over and um having guns pointed in their faces and everything like that. Oh, I'm even kind of skipping. They even show this part where as they're so they get to the gate, right? So they're trying to get into the building now. And the military's there. And they have it where the one guy, the head of the military, is like, I'm gonna go out, guys. I'm gonna go out there and talk to them. And everyone's like, no. And he's like, I'm doing it. I'm being a hero. And because he did this, they just fucking took him and was like, open the fucking doors. And used him to get in. So now they're in and they're attacking. You have these six people being like, okay, we gotta get the fuck out of here. And they just happen to be close to like a back door that led right out to a street. And so they're kind of like, so the whole crowd is like at the front of the building and it's showing them kind of in a backer area. And they're just kind of like, collars up, where do we go now? And they decide the Canadian embassy because the movie makes it look like it's like right there. Like we're just gonna over to the Canadian embassy and to be taken in. So then, I don't want to miss any moments. They run. This is where I was talking about the guy being beyond stupid. So yes, then it jumps to 69 days later. And it jumps to where the American government is kind of like, okay, what are we doing now? Are we going to because you have the hostages. They're showing the hostages and they're showing them in like this, terrible jail situation. And where they're like even like fake shooting them and like just fucking with their heads and stuff. And then you show the Americans who got to the embassy. And so their problem is they're trying to negotiate to get the hostages, but apparently the Iranian rebels haven't discovered that 6 are missing yet, but they're trying to fight the clock because they have little kids going through the shredded files, because as they were breaking down the doors, they were shredding all the files, going through the shredded files, and if they go through those shredded files, they're going to be able to take a note of who should have been in the building, and they're going to realize 6 are missing. So they're like, do we get the 6 out? And so they're like, well, nobody even knows about the 6, so let's just leave them, focus on the actual ones in danger. But it comes down to, and they make it, this is where it gets a little fucked up from the true story, but we won't go there yet. So then it comes in, and they're like, okay, the Canadians are kicking they're kicking them out. They're saying they won't do it anymore. They won't put themselves in danger. We need to get them out. And this is where it shows Ben Affleck's character. And I know I'm terrible because now I've totally forgotten his name. And he's like the main. Oh, Tony Mendez. So they show his character being brought in, and it's basically explained to him that yes, you're going to be the main person trying to get them out, but just know we're not heading this. The state's heading this, and if it goes to shit, that's on you. And that's the only reason they're even bringing you in, to pretty much make you a scapegoat. And he goes into this meeting, and it is just, if this is anywhere near what actually happened in that meeting, my God. So he's sitting in this meeting where the guys are already kind of like spitballing. And the one guy's like, well, I already know what's up. So here's what we're going to do. We got to be low profile, right? So we're going to get on bicycles. And it doesn't matter if they even know how to ride a bike. We'll teach them. I don't know when or where you'd be teaching them how to ride a bike if they're supposed to be hiding. Like, it shows them, like, different rebels knocking on doors and stuff, and people being shot in the streets for even being suspected of partnering with Americans and stuff. And these people are literally, like, hiding in closets when people knock on this dude's door. But we're going to be outside riding bikes. And then he says, past that, we're going to teach them how to ride the bikes, and then they're going to ride the bikes to the Turkish line and go to Turkey. And Mendez has to be like, Turkey's like 300 miles away from this, right? Like, what are you even talking about right now? And it blew my mind. I was just like, oh my God. Because I want to say this was comic relief. And you want to be like, that's nowhere near what happened. But you know what? It was probably really close to what happened. And you know it was probably really close to what happened. So he goes in with his big idea. And he's like, well, pretty much, he's more like, okay, that's stupid, and that's not gonna work, and get fucking serious. So then the one guy's like, well, all right, well, what are y'all's ideas? So then that's when they go with we gotta act like somebody who's already been there. So who would have already been there and is trying to get out? And that's when they're like, oh, they could be activists. They could be activists. And the one guy holds up this poster, and he's like, we'll just, hand out these, but they change the organization. And the guy's like, isn't that an African kid? And he's like, you can change that. And I mean, there's starving Iranians, right? And it's just like, oh my God. It was, they'd be that out of touch. You know it. But this whole scene was delightful to me, because it definitely broke up, even in this really tense moment, you're cracking up because this is the most ridiculous thing you could ever fucking see. So as they're talking about, don't Iranian kids starve too? Tony's like, okay, what about a movie cast? Because this goes back to the real Tony Mendez's background. He worked in movie makeup and props for like 29 years. And he's like, I got connections. We'll act like we're making a movie. We're there surveying. We want to make a movie here. And they were already here as part of our crew. And everyone's like, that's insanity. You'd be out in the open. You'd have to walk around with them. And he's like, damn it, we have to do it. So they're like, well, okay, but if they fucking die, that's like on you, bro. Which kind of comes back to like, it was already on him anyways. So it shows the other Americans still at the Canadian home, drinking, laughing. The maid is now getting nervous. She clearly knows these people are not supposed to be here and they are not Canadian, and she's seeing other people being interrogated, and you get this tense feeling of like, is the maid gonna turn on them? Fuck, 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 fuck. So he ends up like going to Hollywood, uh finding his friend. His friend's like, yeah, we'll find a script, let's find the producer. They find their producer friend. The producer friend's like, I don't know, it sounds fucking dumb, but you know what, I'm in. And then he has this glorious moment. So they find this terrible script, uh but I guess the script was already kind of owned by somebody else, so I kind of got lost in this moment. But basically, by the end of it, so the one guy's like, this is a masterpiece, this is, billions worth of stuff, and the one guy's like, well, it's not. And like, he just trashes him. He makes that dude feel so fucking tiny in like 2 sentences. It was glorious, it was beautiful. And you're just like, fuck yeah, talk down that guy. And he ends up being like, yeah, all right, take the fucking script, fair enough. So they got their script. They're like, okay, we got our producer, we got the, stuff behind it. Now, how are we going to make them feel like it's real? How else can we make this real? So the one guy's like, you know what makes things real? Press makes things real, whether something's happening or not. So he creates this giant press junket, and you're kind of going through a montage of seeing what's happening there and what's happening, and you're jumping back and forth. But he creates this press junket so that there are actual news articles and stuff. So if when they get over there, people are questioning about this movie, you could easily Google, Google, because this is 79, so you're not really Googling anything. But they could look it up, they could make the phone calls, and these things would actually exist. So Mendez finally gets over to, like, he has to go through Turkey. He gets his visas and stuff, and they find out that they had set up in the airport where when you fly in, they write down your information and you get a copy, and then they get to file a copy. So that became like their biggest obstacle of, well, how are we gonna duplicate that? Because you can't. So he kind of is like, well, we're gonna have to fucking steal some, and then some white copies, and then they'll just have to think it's a clerical error on their part when a yellow one doesn't show up, and that's just how we'll have to do that. So he has the passports. You see them go through a montage of once he gets there, training everybody on, like, this is what's going to have to happen. You need to know your new IDs. Like, back in, like, he's interrogating them. He's doing all this stuff. You have the moments where the guys are like, I can't do this. This is too dangerous. But in my mind, I was like, what is your other fucking choice, dude? I get it's scary, and I guess you can't. It's easier to sit in this chair and be like, of course you're going to do this. But at the same time, I can't help but be like, what's your other plan? Like, this is the out, and this is the only fucking door that's showing up. So I don't understand what you're fighting right now. But anyways, they get through all that. They get through the training. They have to have a day where they're out as an actual film crew, like with the cameras and the directors and stuff. And they have them meet in this market, this really busy market. And the one guy is kind of interrogating them because, like, they're welcome, they're accepted, but the government guy helping them around is being like, so who's your director? Like, he's quietly interrogating them. But they end up the one guy ends up accidentally running into a citizen, and then that citizen starts flipping out, and they're like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and then everything. So even the Iranian government guy's like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. They are about to kill us all. So they get out of there, and they get back home to the Canadian embassy, and news is kind of coming in that the little kids working on putting all the papers together, they've done that, and they figured out who's been missing. So now we're like, really gotta fucking go. So their flight's the next day. They get to the airport. They come to the first thing where, like, they have the white sheet, but they don't have the yellow sheet, and they're kind of tense. It's super fucking tense. And then the guy's like, and then they end up just being like, oh, and you're like, okay, we made it through. But then you get another check, and they aren't making it through that check, and they're like, we need you in this little room, and so they're interrogating them, and the one guy does speak the language, so he's like, okay, he's the one trying to negotiate with them and like talk to them and say, we're a movie crew, look at our storyboards here, have them, like, and everything, and they're taking forever, and the flight's about to leave, and they're like, shit, 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 shit. And they show it's so tense because they show it as like they're in this little room being interrogated, the flight's about to fucking leave, and you see the children, the pictures being put together and that being handed off to somebody, and they're like, send these photos out, and they're getting the photos out, and you're just like, oh god, oh god, oh god. So finally the guy's like, all right, go, and they get on the plane, and then, you know, the one lady, I think this was like a Swiss airline or something like that, so she locks the door, and then you're like, okay, they're on the plane. But then once she locks the door, it shows that picture comes through, the one guy's looking, he's like, oh, that's the guy who just left. And so they're running and they're trying to open those doors. And I'll give it to these flight attendants, because they were like, no, you can't go through. Because, you know, once it's like the country that controls that plane, that's like their space, you know? So they're like, no, you can't get, this is Swiss now, go away, you know? And they're like hitting it with the guns. And I'm like, you're a lot braver than me, because I'm gonna be like, here's the key. I please don't fucking shoot me. So they get through that, they break through that door, they got the cars running after the plane, and everyone's just trying to breathe, and they get up to the air traffic control, and they're trying to tell the air traffic control to turn them around. The air traffic control's like, get the fuck out of here. And then you see the plane taking off as the cars are driving up to it, but they never shoot at it. And then the plane's gone, they say, you know, beep, ladies and gentlemen, you've now gone into like whatever airspace, and you see everyone take a deep breath. We made it, and you're just like, fuck yeah, they made it. And then that's pretty much the end of the movie, and you see some of the true, like, they show up the real picture to the actor and kind of like what happened to them afterwards. Super tense. I mean, you were like, like the whole movie. Really good movie, really well shot. And they do, like I told you in the first part, that they filmed those to look like news, but it wasn't really. But they do actually use news footage from that time all throughout to, like, you know, really ground you in it. Okay, deep breath. Whew. I've been talking a lot, and I really should have brought a drink in here. I don't have one. Damn it. So, that's the movie. But how close was the movie to the true story? Oh, no, I totally forgot. Back up just a little bit, because this matters in the true story part. So at the end of the movie, Tony does get a badge or a Medal of Honor or whatever, but they're like, you get it, but you gotta hand it back. Because, and they like literally say this in the movie. They do a line something like, so we did all the work, but the Canadians are gonna get all the credit. And he's like, that's the life of a spy, you know? Like, and you're just like, wow, dang, they really did those American men dirty, you know? So here's the true story, though. Okay, so basically, kind of similar. It's definitely falling. And I will say, telling this true story was huge. And this is the most watered down summary you're ever going to get. Don't use this for a book report or anything, okay? Because I tried to go as in depth as I could, but even then I was like, holy shit. Because I kept, one, in the movie, if you don't know your history, you're like, well, wait, why are they being attacked? And you do have to kind of be like, okay, so I went to look that up. On why were the Iranians attacking the American embassy in the first place? So let's really rewind it. So they had a leader, and this is super, super watered down. This is a way more complicated issue than I could ever have time to explain here, and there's way better, smarter people to explain this to you. So if you really want to know, please go look them out. But just on the most basic of kindergarten terms here, okay? Basically, there was a leader, and the country was okay under him. But he was communist. So, supposedly, the American and the British spies were like, well, we can't have another commie country. Let's get them out of there. And they apparently helped dismantle that guy and put up another guy. I think he was called like the Shiite or something. And under this guy, Iran did have good economic times, but in Iran there's always been I feel like the closest way I could think of it was kind of like how back in the day how the Pope and the kings worked so close together. It was kind of like that. You had your religious sector of guys who worked really close with the government, and like they knew law and stuff, and the government pretty much listened to them. Like the religious side of things really has a lot of influence. I don't want to say control, has a lot of influence on the government. So this one guy was like, I don't like how you're doing things, and I really don't like the Americanization of things, and you're messing up our laws and stuff. So a lot of people were following him, and a lot of the while businesses were booming and oil was booming, the economy there wasn't perfect because there weren't a lot of jobs. People were having to move into cities. Ugh. Okay, sorry for that little blip, kids. Okay, where was I? So, hmm. So basically, what's happening is okay. So they had their leader. We helped overthrow their leader. The new leader, the religious leaders don't necessarily agree with him, and they don't like the Americanization of what's happening to their country. And a lot of the people agreed with this, but also what's happening. So while that's kind of the super conservatives are boiling under there, what's happening in the general public is, and you might find this sounding a little familiar here, you're getting a lot of overeducated people who then have nowhere to work and nowhere to live, and it's getting hard for people to really support their families. So they're getting restless because they're like, bitch, you're saying we're prosperous, but we're not feeling prosperous. So that's when they start picketing, protesting. And this leader's kind of like, I don't know, kill him, you know, just shoot him in the streets. So more protesters start showing up to be like, yo, don't kill us. We're trying to tell you something. So then as the protests are getting huger and huger, and they initially the protests were, we need homes, we need money. Under that there was a conservative underbelly saying, hey, but also stop Americanizing us. So, and like women shouldn't vote, stuff like that. So, um, as that's getting worse, the leader's kind of realizing I'm fucked. So he runs to America, and of course, Americans, we take him in, which made the Iranian people feel very validated in the fact of, we told you he was a fucking American lackey, and burn it all down. So that's where you're coming in with this whole thing, and that's why they're attacking the American embassy. They feel like we fucked with their shit, and they are not happy about it. So, so it was described. I watched a couple different podcasts with the actual survivors describing their story. So in the movie, they make it look like it's all one building, but it's really not. You have little building over here, big building, and this is where they were. So when they first kind of decide to leave, they said it wasn't like in a moment. It wasn't like they broke the gates and they were like, run or stay, we're running. They said it actually took a couple days, and that the protesters just kind of ignored that building for the most part. Like they tried to get in one time and then didn't try again. But after that time of trying, they were like, we probably need to get the fuck out of here before they try again. So then they get out. So I want to think I have probably too many people in my head, but I know. So they don't actually end up together. One guy ends up going, I want to say it's the British embassy, and like sleeping on the floor there. The other couples, they go, I want to say it was maybe Swiss or German, something along those lines. And they stay there for a couple days, I want to say maybe even a couple weeks, a little while. But things are still hot and tense, and that government's going, hey, we want to help these people, but should they come interrogating, these guys aren't going to fit in. They don't got the accent, they don't got the culture, it's not going to work out. We need somebody else to take them. The British were like, it's a little too hot here. They're looking at us. Like, they know we would hide you guys, so we can't take them. Canada is like, oh, we'll take them. for sure. Send them on. So the couples go over to the Canadian embassy. The prime minister meets with them. And he's like, okay, so two of you are going to stay here. The other two are going to go with my good friends. We're going to split you guys up so that it's not condensed and we can make it look like you're just friends staying with us. Okay? So this is what's happening. They're separated. Um, just kind of going through their weeks. Then the Canadians are like, hello, America. Would you please take your people? Because they're going to fucking die here. It's very dangerous. And America's like, we got bigger things to deal with. And they're like, okay, well, we have a fucking idea. Let's do this. And the Americans like, all right, fine, we'll send help. And that's when the Mendez team gets together. So he wasn't by himself. He was with a whole team of people. Like in the interrogation scene, you see him interrogating them. That wasn't him. That was another guy that would have done that. They definitely did do all that movie stuff they show. They made the scripts. They put out press releases and stuff. So, and then of course, you know, they never went to a market. They never had to go in public like that. When they did get to the airport, they said they had one tense moment where they thought the guy was going to be like getting the police, but he was just making himself a cup of tea. And then they sat down, they waited for their plane, they got on their plane. There was no chase down the tarmac, there was none of that. But it was like, yes, when you take that deep breath of like, oh, we're out of this airspace, you know, you cried and stuff like that. So after this movie came out, so that's basically the story. Basic in the most basic of terms. So now let's go over how would I rate this movie on a shit's true scale? From one being this you didn't keep the storyline at all to like 5 out of 5. You really kept with the true story. I'm sorry here, Ben. I think I'm gonna have to give you a 2, I guess. It was a good movie, but the Canadians were pissed at us when this movie came out, and I can absolutely understand why. I do understand that to keep tenseness up in a movie, you got to change the storyline a bit. I totally get condensing a team of characters into one so that not so much is happening. You know, we're pretty feeble-minded, and you know, the less to look at, the better. I totally get that. um, but I will say, like, the airport scenes, all of that can totally stay. Very tense. I think very needed in a movie. Beautifully done. What didn't have to happen, and I don't know why this choice was made, um, was completely pretty much cutting out Canada and in fact making them almost look like dicks in this. I mean, you literally put a line in a movie saying, guess Canada's gonna get all the credit. Oh, that's the life of a CIA agent. Like, Canada deserved all the credit. They did everything. I thought that was kind of shitty. Like, finding out the true story. They had the Canadian Prime Minister in the movie, but only kind of. And they had a pretty big actor playing him too. He was the shipbuilder from Titanic. And I know he's probably known for like way more than that, but that's what I know him from for sure. So he's this really big actor. Like, he's a good actor. I feel like you could have absolutely cut out all that, the American side of it, all of that, which was funny, but didn't necessarily need to happen. And you could have made that Canadian, and you could have had more moments where that prime minister was showing and being like, hey, I'm taking the lead. Hey, we're saving these people. You know, I totally get having to cut out multiple places of where the people were staying to condense them into one house. Um, but even the survivors were really offended by that because this other family that stuck their necks out for them got completely erased. I mean, you wouldn't have known. Like, if you only go off the movie, you wouldn't have known those people ever fucking existed. So I can understand. I could totally see, I don't know, maybe trying to squeeze them in somehow. So yeah, I definitely think uh, old Benny Boy spitting some faces here when he didn't necessarily have to, and you could have still made a really great movie with just as much suspense. Um, so yeah, but I definitely do understand spicing up this true story because the true story is tense. I'm not saying those people definitely went through some shit. Um, but yeah, just them telling it a lot of times I was kind of like, oh, that's it, which is terrible. Okay, don't get me wrong, but that is kind of how I felt. So I definitely think the movie did a great job of spicing it up and really making you feel like, oh shit, what's gonna happen next? Um, so yeah, movie itself, 10 out of 10. But yeah, sorry, Ben, you could have done a better job. You didn't have to throw the Canadians under the bus like that. So thank you for watching this very spastic uh, episode. I'm going to try to get more confidence going forward, because while I'm sitting in a room all by my fucking self, I really feel like I'm back in a public speech class, which I did terrible at. Probably ramble too much, but I'm going to get better, guys. I'm going to get fucking better. Don't you worry about it. And come join me next Friday. Same time, same place. And I'll have a new movie for you on Shit's True. Thanks for watching.